lot of my work is actually inspired by grassroots community building and stewardship, and what I noticed on the field in terms of culture, economy, and urban planning and rural planning. And that is increasingly being used in development economies, with large language models providing advice on actions and decisions, as well as predicting social behavior. For example, AI is already being applied to design collective action strategies for energy infrastructure based on its prediction of human cooperation. However, this growing reliance on AI raises significant anthropological concerns. There is a risk that these models, rooted in Western-centric assumptions, could fail to account for culturally specific notions of value and agency, leading to incomplete or biased outcomes. So a collaboration began with a shared curiosity about alternative economic systems, and over time, it has evolved into an exploration of how anthropological research can inform and train more accurate and inclusive economic elements. So LLMs being large language models, ChatGPT, and so on. So this approach highlights the potential for interdisciplinary dialogue to define these AI technologies, making them better aligned with the diverse realities of human experience. So it's kind of bringing that decolonial lens in how we think about this. So to enable this meaningful conversation between human agents as well as non-human agents, we needed some kind of an anchor, right? So we ground our approach in this concept of ontology. Now, this is a concept which has a meaning across multiple disciplines. So the core idea of ontology remains consistent across disciplines, but its application varies depending on the domain. So, for example, in cultural anthropology, ontology refers to the worldview of beings, agents, and relationships that underpin a culturally specific way of existing. In linguistic anthropology, it becomes the semiotic framework through which a group makes reality mutually intelligible. And this is the place where we start seeing how it starts connecting to the concept of ontology in computer science. So in computer science and AI, ontology is a formal representation of knowledge within a domain encompassing entities, relationships, and rules. So when we recognize and integrate these diverse perspectives, we build a foundation for enabling cross-disciplinary dialogues and developing AI systems that respect and reflect human complexity. So we did a preliminary control experiment. We essentially trained 2 AI models. So the first model is called Callan. So if you're familiar with the author and researcher Callan, but we have it's an abbreviation for conventionally average late literal lithology, the model, which represents a control model built on standard training data without incorporating any additional contextual influence. Now, the standard training data is very Western influenced, so it's very Western biased. In contrast, its modified counterpart called Mouse is more accurate understanding of society and its symbols, is abbreviated as, has undergone fine-tuning informed by diverse cultural and economic theories. So this fine-tuning enhances its ability to understand symbolically mediated economies and cultural complexities that exist outside the Western culture. So to train these models, we draw on anthropological studies such as the Trobriand systems, very rapid anthropological texts, and also cooperative water management of Paganese water samples, including texts by Levi-Strauss, Malinowski, Lansing, and others. So we ran these 2 models on specifically chosen queries, right? So for example, if we ask the question, how would a crash in coffee prices affect marriage practices in Trobriand Islands? So we have these 2 models, right? So one island, which is Western bias, the standard training data, it says that it will delay marriages. Right? But then we actually give these anthropological sites and say it might quicken. Right? So if you're familiar, with sort of like, if you think of it from a Western perspective, I mean, of course, it makes sense to delay marriages because, finances and financial stability helps, right? It's a more individual perspective. But I was born in India, and in Indian system as well. Like, if you give like very culturally specific nations, in many places they would say, well, we should quicken marriages because the social infrastructure, the social capital is what actually allows people to get through harder times. So you can start seeing how, if you actually give these generative AI and train them on very specific anthropological text, it can actually start responding to culturally sensitive matters in a more appropriate way. So inspired by this, we started asking some deepening questions. So our essential objective is how do we make these hidden economic activities visible to better reflect culturally specific ideas of value, agency, and person. The reason we want to make them visible is because we want these decolonial sort of practices and cultures to have very set economic activities and be able to engage in them in a more wider way. Right? So the key questions that we ask is that can AI models emulate these hidden semiotic relationships in an equitable and consistent way? Is it feasible for AI models to align culturally with these made visible economic ties to support decolonial approaches? Do recordings of cultural observation and practices create sufficient semiotic basis for these principles? So just really coming to a conclusion here. So essentially the way we are looking at this is our approach emphasizes ontologically differentiated levels of social and individual meaning making. So recognizing the complexity of how people and groups interact and organize their works. This involves mapping the relational and often hierarchical symbolic processes of economic activity to knowledge representation within AI intelligence. So for example, economic activities in various cultures are intrinsically framed on the basis of spatial, temporal, social status, among others. So this ranking also closely matches with how, with various models of organization for knowledge representation and rationalization in AI. So this is how we bridge and align AI systems with the diverse ways in which economic and social meaning is concerned. So to enhance this alignment, we are fine-tuning AI models grounded in these ontologies. So there's kind of like a relational hierarchical organization, ensuring that they reflect rich culturally specific processes that define even economic and social behavior. So in conclusion, and so what the picture that you're seeing here is a picture of Balinese water channels. The reason I actually chose this picture is because in a very pictorial way, it represents the hierarchical nature of how the system is organized and the intrinsic economic relationships that it has. So essentially, in Balinese water temples, rituals in different kind of hierarchy of temples define where the water goes. And it's a very community-oriented and connected process that is deeply rooted in like some spiritual practice. So basically concluding, so this integration of economic anthropology and generative AI offers very promising insights into contemporary economic practices and cultural norms. Right. So, I mean, this is something that is very heavily studied. So that's why we know about Balinese water temples. But what about other systems and other economic activities, right? Economic activities that even in global north, like, the United States, for instance, there are communities that engage in economic activities that are not visible, right? How do we actually look at that? And that are grounded in cultural context. So understanding this relationship offers interesting insights for navigating complexities of market.